Hey drifters, DoriJunkie here, part 2 of the Top 32 Championship. Hints and tips. If you haven't seen my first video, it was all about the qualifying. There's a link in the description, go watch it now. If you haven't seen it, if you have, here's part 2, it's all about the chase. The first thing you got to do in a chase is you want to match and try and match their initiation. Sometimes this will be easier than others because it's all about your 0 to 100 time. If their 0 to 100 time is a bit quicker than yours, the starting gap's going to be a bit bigger. But if you're faster than them, you'll be right on their hammer, so you'll be able to match their initiation straight away. But if you're a little bit slower, you may have to cut the corner a little bit. So that brings me to the next thing. You want to try and match the opponent's tyres. It's not always easy the first time running, you don't know what tyres they're on. But once the second run into it, you should know if they're on a slower tyre, put the slower tyre on. It'll make it easier to match their angle and transition. It's very important to match the transitions because this will keep the bonus going. If you don't match their transition, you will lose that bonus. And try and keep the run smooth and the proximity close. The closer you are, the more points you will gain. But you don't want to get too close, whereas you hamper your transition. You don't want to be nose to tail through the transition because you will lose your multiplier altogether. And this brings me to the last thing that's really important in chasing is brake drifting. Now this is where you drift with the brakes on. If you have one of my Dori Ultimate tunes, you'll notice that the braking bias is all the way to the front and the pressure is turned all the way up. This is so when you hit the brakes, it really doesn't affect the rear wheels as much as the front wheels, so you'll keep the rear wheels spinning and enable you to keep the rear out sideways, but slow the car off a bit for all those tight corners and sections where the person in front of you is sort of a bit slower. Then you have the handbrake as well, which will lock up the rears if you do need to. But I can show you that more in the runs. It'll help you understand it a bit more if you can actually see what I'm talking about. So it'll go to one now and I'll show you just what I mean. Now, as some of you may be able to hear, he has the 3.8 litre in that Spector RS, so he's going to be pretty fast. You can see the starting gaps are pretty big, not that big, but a bit of ground to make up. So I've cut the corner a little bit just to make up that ground, because as soon as you can get on his hammer, that's when you start getting good points. And transition at the same time, just want to try and slide in, just try and slide up to their door, just slow it up a bit there. So I'm going to need to brake drift here, drift a bit. You can see the brake lights are on, I'm brake drifting there, and the handbrake. Now just get back up to their door and just before they transition, you just want to try and ease off a little bit. Get back in there, you will see just as you transition at the same time, come back in again on the last corner when no more transition, so try and get up as close as possible using your brake and handbrake, everything at your disposal. Wasn't a totally clean run, but I'm pretty happy with that. Usually if you can score more than your qualifying run, it's a good run. Now this one is a real test of the blackjack. If you're going to go in silver DP, you're going to come up against one of these. It's relatively a slower tune. You see the gap was a lot closer there, the starting gap, so I just followed his initiation, his entry, went all the way wide, just trying to match him, just waiting for the transition, and then I'll try and sneak up a bit more on him now, and then again right here, look, brake and handbrake at the same time there to lock him and get going into it. Got a bit close there, try and match his transition. These things are fast, so you've really got to give it your all when you're going against these blackjacks. They can make points like no other car in the game. They really are overpowered that way. But as you can see here, if you can get right on their hammer, slide in there, you can make some decent points, and you will be able to beat them. It's just all about practice, guys, and keeping a fluid motion behind them and try not to overdo it. Now go to another one here. Now this one's actually a bronze DP in the Azura M1, also with the 6.2 litre supercharged engine, but you see how the gap was pretty decent, pretty even there, matched for speed. I can get right on him in this and just smoothly move it under again, right up on him again. I see I'm not in top gear, I'm trying to keep it one gear less, and just to leave something in reserve in case he opens the gap. You see I just put it in 6th gear and that gap closed straight up, straight away, gives me that extra bit, and now I can just come up underneath him. I know this guy's a pretty good drifter, so I know I can get nice and close. He's not going to do anything silly. Just match his transition, just bring it home. If you just watch here a bit, I'll back off a little bit into the transition and then get back under his door, right, and mirror him across the finish line. And that's a pretty good score. I'm pretty happy with that one. That's a pretty textbook chase right there. much it, guys, for the hints and tips. I hope this sort of helps you out. It's all about practice, guys. Just try and get in there and practice. You can go to single player and drift around a track and then save your ride, and then just go and follow it. Just drift with it, overtake it, just have some fun. Try different cars as well. It's always a bit different, not always in the same spec car in silver DP, so it's good to race slower and faster cars. But anyway, I hope this helps you guys out. I'm DoriJunkie, and I'll catch you on the track.